The creaking of wooden planks beneath their feet mixed with the salty breeze as Hadrian and Royce found themselves aboard the merchant vessel Emerald Storm. The ship's weathered captain, Marcus Blackwood, eyed them suspiciously as they presented their papers. The fog surrounding the harbour created an ethereal atmosphere, with lanterns casting dancing shadows across the deck. As they settled into their cramped quarters below deck, Royce noticed something peculiar about the crew's movements. Too coordinated for simple sailors, too disciplined. His suspicions grew when he overheard whispered conversations in an ancient dialect he hadn't heard in years. The ship's mysterious cargo, locked behind heavy iron doors, seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy that made even the seasoned thief uncomfortable. 3 days into their journey, the true nature of the Emerald Storm revealed itself. What appeared to be a merchant vessel was in fact a sophisticated smuggling operation, but not for ordinary contraband. Hidden beneath enchanted panels, Hadrian discovered ancient artifacts pulsing with magical energy. Captain Blackwood's facade crumbled when a rival ship emerged from the storm clouds. The notorious pirate vessel Crimson Hawk. As lightning split the sky, the two ships engaged in a deadly dance of cannon fire and sorcery. Amidst the chaos, Royce noticed symbols etched into the ship's hull that matched the prophecies they'd encountered in the elven ruins. The pieces of a larger puzzle began falling into place, but time was running out as the storm intensified. With the Crimson Hawk in pursuit and a mutiny brewing below deck, Hadrian and Royce found themselves caught between multiple threats. The ship's mysterious cargo began affecting the crew, ancient memories surfacing, skills they never learned suddenly manifesting. Captain Blackwood revealed his true identity as a member of an ancient order dedicated to preventing the rise of a forgotten power. As they approached the coordinates specified in their mission, the sea itself seemed to come alive. Massive tentacles of water rose from the depths, guided by forces they couldn't comprehend. In the chaos that followed, Royce made a discovery that changed everything. The ship itself was an artifact, and they were sailing straight into a trap centuries in the making. The last thing Hadrian saw before the deck split apart was a ghostly city rising from beneath the waves, its spires reaching up to claim them. The ancient elven ruins loomed before Hadrian and Royce, their weathered surfaces gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence in the dying light. Moss-covered archways stretched toward the darkening sky, their intricate patterns still visible despite centuries of decay. As the two companions ventured deeper into the forgotten halls, their torchlight cast dancing shadows on walls adorned with mysterious glyphs. Ezra Haddon's cryptic warnings echoed in their minds as they discovered a chamber filled with crystalline structures that hummed with residual magic. The air grew thick with anticipation as Royce's keen eyes spotted fresh footprints in the dust. They weren't alone in these halls of ancient power. Deep within the ruins, they found Merrick, the young scholar, frantically transcribing symbols from a massive circular door. His hands trembled as he explained the gravity of his discovery. The chamber before them wasn't just a vault, it was a warning. The inscriptions spoke of a power that had once brought the Elven Empire to its knees. As Hadrian traced the intricate metalwork with his fingers, something clicked. The chamber groaned to life, ancient mechanisms whirring beneath their feet. Merrick's eyes widened in horror as he translated the final line. They had just activated what the elves had tried so desperately to contain. The chamber's opening revealed a sight that stole their breath. A vast underground cavern stretching into darkness, filled with impossible architecture that defied gravity. Floating islands of stone connected by bridges of pure light. And at the center, a pulsing artifact that seemed to bend reality around it. But as they stood transfixed, shadows began to move of their own accord. The darkness itself seemed to breathe. Royce's warning came too late as ancient guardians emerged from the walls, their crystalline forms catching the artifact's light. Hadrian's sword rang out of its scabbard as Merrick stumbled backward, clutching his translations. The artifact's pulse quickened, and the very air began to crackle with power. In that moment, they realized they'd stumbled upon something far more dangerous than mere ruins. They'd found what the Regent had been searching for all along. As the Guardians advanced, the ground beneath them started to shift, and Merrick's voice cracked as he read the final warning. What was sealed here was never meant to be found. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the ornate marble floors of Aquesta's Grand Council chamber. Lady Arista, her emerald robes flowing gracefully, stood before the assembled nobles with unwavering determination. The air was thick with tension as she presented evidence of Chancellor Ethelred's secret dealings with the nationalist faction. Just as the council began to murmur in agreement with her accusations, the chamber doors burst open. Sentinel Captain Marcus strode in, his armor gleaming ominously in the dim light. "My lords," he announced, his voice echoing through the suddenly silent room, "I bring proof of treason, not from the Chancellor, but from our own Lady Arista." The gasps that followed were deafening, but none so shocking as the sight of her trusted advisor, Lord Chamberlain, stepping forward to corroborate the accusations. In the bustling port of Cornora, Hadrian and Royce found themselves entangled in an unexpected alliance with the mysterious merchant, Viscount Deegan. The Viscount's proposal seemed simple enough. Help him recover a stolen artifact from his rival's heavily guarded mansion. As they navigated the mansion's labyrinthine corridors, Royce's keen instinct sensed something amiss. The guards' patterns were too perfect, the security too precisely arranged. When they finally reached the vault, Hadrian's sword illuminated a shocking sight. The artifact wasn't stolen at all. They'd walked straight into an elaborate trap, with the Viscount's true intentions still hidden in the shadows. Deep within the ancient elven ruins, Esarhaddon led Magnus through chambers untouched for centuries. The air sparkled with residual magic, making the young wizard's skin tingle with anticipation. As they deciphered the cryptic inscriptions on the walls, a pattern emerged, one that contradicted everything they thought they knew about the Empire's founding. The final chamber revealed a mural that made Magnus's blood run cold. There, painted in still gleaming pigments, was a scene depicting the exact events unfolding in the present day, including faces he recognized. But it was the next panel that truly terrified him, for it showed the consequence of their current path, a future too horrifying to contemplate. Before he could warn Esarhaddon, the ground beneath them shuddered, and ancient mechanisms whirred to life. The ancient halls of Aquesta Castle echoed with hushed conversations as Arista traced her fingers along the cold stone walls, her emerald robe sweeping silently across the floor. The magical essence in the air had grown thicker over the past days, making even the simplest spells crackle with unusual intensity. As she rounded the corner, she caught sight of Regent Salda engaged in a heated, whispered discussion with Bishop Etherton, their faces illuminated by flickering torchlight. The words "ancient seal" and "awakening" drifted to her ears before they noticed her presence and abruptly fell silent. Later that night, while studying forbidden texts in her chamber, Arista discovered a troubling connection between the Empire's recent expansions and an old elven prophecy. Her hands trembled as she read the final lines, the implications too terrible to contemplate. Hadrian and Royce found themselves trapped in the labyrinthine catacombs beneath Drumindor, the air thick with both magic and danger. Their torch revealed ancient markings that seemed to shift and change as they passed. "This isn't natural," Royce muttered, his experienced thief's instincts screaming warnings. Above them, the sound of marching feet and clashing steel grew louder as Imperial forces engaged the rebellion. The duo discovered a hidden chamber containing artifacts that confirmed their worst fears about the Regent's true plans. But before they could act on this information, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows. Someone they had trusted, now revealed as an agent of their enemies. The betrayal stung deeper than any blade. As thunder rolled across the darkening skies of Aquesta, Modena stood before the great stained glass window of the palace, her young face reflecting both innocence and growing determination. The weight of the Empire's future pressed heavily upon her shoulders as she watched Imperial troops gathering in the courtyard below. In her hand, she clutched a mysterious amulet discovered in the ancient texts. Its significance yet unknown, but its power undeniable. Sentinel Magnus approached with urgent news. The rebellion had breached the outer walls, and strange lights had been seen in the Forbidden Forest. But before he could finish his report, the ground beneath them trembled, and the amulet in Modena's hand began to pulse with an otherworldly light. The last thing she saw before everything went dark was the horror on Magnus's face as he reached for his sword. In the dimly lit chambers of the Imperial Palace, Regent Selda's carefully orchestrated plan began to unravel. The ancient tapestries cast long shadows as Hadrian and Royce discovered the hidden passage behind the throne room. The air was thick with magic, making the torches flicker with an otherworldly blue hue. As they ventured deeper, they found Princess Arista, her hands glowing with newfound magical power, decoding the elven inscriptions that would reveal the true heir's identity. The chamber suddenly erupted in chaos as Imperial guards burst in, led by the treacherous Count Villar, his golden armor reflecting the magical light. The revelation shook the Empire to its core. Modena, the young empress-to-be, stood before the assembled nobles, her voice carrying an authority that silenced even her staunchest opponents. The great hall's crystal chandeliers seemed to pulse with energy as ancient magic stirred. Hadrian's sword clashed with the regent's guards while Royce slipped through the shadows, securing their escape route. Arista's spell illuminated the hidden markings on the imperial seal, proving beyond doubt the legitimacy of their cause. But as victory seemed within reach, a dark laugh echoed through the chamber. Sentinel Ambrose stepped from behind a pillar, holding a crystalline orb that pulsed with forbidden power. The final confrontation unfolded atop the Imperial Tower as storm clouds gathered overhead. Lightning crackled around Arista as she channeled ancient elven magic, her power matching Ambrose's dark sorcery. Hadrian and Royce fought back-to-back against the elite guard, their movements a deadly dance of steel and shadow. Modena's voice rang out, reciting the words of power taught by Ezra Haddon. While the imperial seal blazed with blinding light, the tower trembled as two forms of magic clashed. But in that moment of chaos, a third power awakened. The ground beneath them cracked, revealing something that had slumbered for millennia. As the dust settled, all eyes turned to the impossible sight before them, and the true meaning of Empire's rise became terrifyingly clear.
Thank you for venturing into this realm with me. If you crave more enchanted worlds, mythical battles, and secrets whispered from ancient pages, join the Guild of Storybound Explorers. Subscribe now and ring the bell to unlock every new quest the moment it drops. The next chapter awaits. Will you answer the call?